My wife's sister called me jobless right to my face. In front of my wife. In public. Loud enough for the barista in half the damn coffee shop to hear. It was supposed to be just a casual brunch date, pancakes, 2 cappuccinos, and maybe a quiet stroll through the park. But then Taylor showed up. I hadn't even seen her walk in. She must have spotted us from outside and charged in like she was the damn queen of Judgmentville. "You're still with him," she said, pointing at me like I was a roach under a glass. "I thought you'd grow out of this NET phase, Mia. Or is he just your charity project now?" Mia just laughed. That cold, sharp laugh that didn't belong to the girl I married. She didn't defend me. She didn't even blink. She just sipped her drink. And I sat there, like an idiot, watching this med school princess rip me apart with surgical precision while the woman I built a life with smiled like she was at a comedy show. Taylor turned to me, smirking. "You know what NEETs are, right? No education, employment, or training. You're the definition, bro." That was the moment. That exact second. Something in me cracked. Not because I didn't have a job. I did. I was working remotely, building systems for a startup in Austin. Quiet work. Invisible work. But paid well and let me stay home while we were trying to build a family. At least that's what I thought we were doing. But now? My wife sitting there, letting her sister humiliate me in broad daylight? That wasn't partnership. That was betrayal in designer sunglasses. I didn't argue. Didn't even finish my coffee. Just stood up, nodded, and left. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. Didn't give either of them the satisfaction. But my chest felt like someone had shoved broken glass into my ribs. I spent the rest of that day walking. Just walking. Around the city, through parks, past families and couples and kids with ice cream. And the whole time, I kept thinking, what the hell is going on? Because this wasn't just about brunch. It wasn't just about Taylor's mouth. It was Mia. That cold laugh. That dead-eyed smile. The way she looked at me like a pet she was growing tired of. There were signs, sure. Little ones. She'd started hiding her phone when texting. She'd changed the passwords on her laptop. She worked late, but her paycheck stayed the same. I'd asked her once if she was okay, and she just said, "Don't be clingy, babe. It's unattractive." That one stung more than I admitted. But the worst part? I still wanted to believe in her. I still hoped there was some logical explanation for all of it, for the coldness, the distance, the way she touched me like she was checking a box instead of reaching for me like she used to. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed on the couch, fully clothed, scrolling through old photos of us, birthday parties, weekend trips, blurry selfies at midnight. And then, around 3 a.m., I noticed something. A picture she'd posted 2 nights ago. Caption: "Work hard, play harder, kiss mark." Location tag: City View Rooftop Bar. Funny thing? She told me she was working a night shift. At the office. Alone. I zoomed in on the reflection in her wine glass. A hand. A man's hand. Wearing a silver watch. Not mine. My blood ran cold. Not because I'd finally seen it, but because deep down, I already knew. I stared at the screen until the battery died. Then I just sat there in the dark. Silent. Still. Cracked wide open. And I whispered to the night. "You called me jobless, Taylor. But your sister? She's the one who threw away something priceless." The next morning, I didn't say anything. I brewed coffee like usual, set out a plate for her, even folded the towel she left on the bathroom floor. I watched her walk past me in one of her too tight office dresses, heels clicking like gunshots on the tile. She didn't say a word either. No kiss. No eye contact. Just grabbed her purse and left. Like I wasn't even there. I waited until I heard the car pull out of the driveway. Then I went upstairs, logged into our shared laptop, the one she thought I never used anymore. Her browser history was wiped, of course. But she'd forgotten one thing. Sync devices. Through her cloud account, I accessed her photo backups. Hundreds of selfies, pictures of cocktails, close-ups of her in dresses I'd never seen, some of them clearly taken in hotel rooms. But the one that made my stomach turn was a short video. No faces. Just voices. Hers, whispering, "I shouldn't be doing this." A man laughing. "Then don't stop." Then her again, low and breathy, "You're so bad." I paused it. I couldn't hear anymore. For a long moment, I just sat there, staring at the paused frame, her hand, his chest, tangled sheets. My hands were shaking. Not from rage. From humiliation. I'd been reduced to a joke. A placeholder. A doormat with a mortgage. I didn't even notice the tears until one landed on the keyboard. The next day, I drove to the hospital where Taylor was doing her internship. I didn't have a plan, just rage simmering under my skin. I wanted answers. Or maybe I just wanted to see if her sister had the same smug look now that I knew. I walked into the main lobby and almost turned around until I saw her. She was coming down the hall in her white coat, clipboard in hand, focused. She didn't notice me at first, but when she looked up and saw my face, she froze like a deer in headlights. Well, I said. Still think I'm NET? She tried to recover, straightened up. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same. Didn't know hospitals let in family members of the woman your sister's cheating with. Taylor's face drained of color. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. I've seen the pictures. The messages. The video. Her mouth dropped open, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she looked away, lips tightening. I warned Mia, she muttered. Told her not to be sloppy. That hit harder than a punch. So it was real. It was happening. And Taylor knew. You knew she was cheating on me? I asked, stepping forward. And you just stood by? Why wouldn't I? She snapped. You're a loser, and she deserves better. That was it. No filter. No mercy. Just cruelty. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because if I didn't, I might have lost it. You know what the funny part is? I said. You've spent your whole life training to save people, and you can't even recognize when someone's drowning. She scoffed. Save the drama. You're not the victim here. You just weren't enough. And then she walked away. I stood there for a full minute, watching her disappear down the hallway. It wasn't just Mia who betrayed me. It was her whole world. And I wasn't part of it anymore. Maybe I never was. When I got home that night, the house felt colder. Not because of the temperature, but because I was finally seeing it for what it really was, a cage. When I helped build, brick by brick, while she was out tearing holes in its walls behind my back. Mia came home late. Said nothing about where she'd been. Threw her purse on the kitchen counter and started scrolling on her phone like the past 3 days hadn't just rearranged my entire understanding of our marriage. I stood across from her and asked, flatly, who is he? She looked up, slowly. A flicker of something crossed her face, not guilt, not shock. Just mild irritation, like I'd interrupted a game. What are you talking about? Don't insult me, Mia. Just tell me who he is. She put down her phone, leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You're being paranoid. I saw the video. Her mouth twitched. But even then, she didn't flinch. Instead, she sighed and said, you had no right to go through my stuff. You had no right to drag our marriage through a hotel room, I snapped. That's when her expression changed. The facade cracked. But not the way I expected. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She smiled. Finally, she said, took you long enough. It hit like a slap. So it's true. Of course it's true. Nathan, you think I've been happy here? Living like a roommate with someone who's allergic to ambition? I blinked. I supported you through med school applications, through your job changes. I was the one who... Yeah, you were there. But you weren't going anywhere. I stared at her, speechless. She walked past me, toward the fridge, like we were just talking about groceries. Look, I was going to tell you eventually. I just didn't want the drama. You cheated on me. You humiliated me in public. You let your sister treat me like garbage. And you think I'm the drama? She shrugged. You made it easy. Always so quiet. Predictable. Honestly, Nate, I didn't even think you'd notice. That broke something in me. Not because of the affair, but because of how little it meant to her. How little I meant. I reached into the drawer, pulled out the envelope I'd prepared hours ago. She saw it and frowned. What's that? Divorce papers. Her face didn't change. Just a single raised eyebrow. You actually went through with it? I nodded. Signed, notarized, just needs your signature. She walked up, picked it up, flipped through the pages like she was browsing a menu, then tossed it on the table. I'll think about it. No, I said, stepping closer. You'll sign it now. Something in my voice must have startled her. She looked at me for real this time, like I wasn't the passive guy she thought she could trample forever. You're serious. I nodded. Dead serious. She hesitated, then picked up the pen and signed without another word. And when she handed it back to me, she smiled again. That same smug, soulless smile. Guess you finally grew a spine, she said. I didn't respond. Just picked up the envelope, turned around, and walked to the door. Where are you going to go? She called after me. I paused at the threshold, looked back one last time. Somewhere I'm not disposable. And then I left. The next few days were a blur. I stayed at a cheap motel on the edge of town. The kind with flickering neon signs and a vending machine that only worked if you kicked it. But it was quiet. No perfume in the air. No half-lies dropped over dinner. No fake smiles stretched across the room like rubber bands ready to snap. I kept my phone off most of the time. Didn't want her texts. Didn't want apologies or manipulations or some twisted attempt at closure. But she didn't call. Didn't message. Not once. Not even a, "Where are you?" She was done. That much was clear. What stung the most was how easy it was for her. One morning, I decided to stop running. I shaved, put on a clean shirt, and drove back to the house. Not to fight. Just to pack what was mine and leave on my terms. I wasn't going to beg or argue or cry anymore. I'd done all that behind locked motel doors. When I walked in, the air felt different. Like the house had adjusted to life without me. Her shoes weren't by the door. A suitcase was missing from the closet. On the kitchen counter sat a post-it note, written in her lazy half-cursive. "Don't forget to pay the internet. You use it more than I ever did. M. No goodbye. No thanks for the years. Just a utility reminder." I gathered my things. A box of books. My laptop. A few photos, the ones before everything went to hell. I was about to grab the framed picture of our wedding, but stopped. In it, she looked at me like I was her whole world. Now, I realized, she'd just been playing a role. Maybe she convinced herself she loved me for a while. Maybe she wanted the idea of us more than the reality. But the woman in that photo wasn't real anymore. Maybe she never had been. I set the frame down and walked away. I was halfway down the front steps when I heard a car door slam. Taylor. Of all people, it had to be her. She was walking up the path in her hospital scrubs, clearly surprised to see me. She paused when our eyes met. "Didn't expect you," she said. "Likewise." She looked around. "Mia's not home?" I shook my head. Packed and left. Probably with him. There was a flicker in her eyes. Not pity. Not guilt. Just awareness. She knew exactly who I meant. "She always liked adrenaline," she muttered. I let the silence sit between us for a beat too long. "You gonna tell me I told you so now?" I asked. Taylor exhaled. "No. You already know." I didn't respond. I didn't owe her conversation. But she didn't move. "I shouldn't have said what I did," she added. "At the cafe. That was harsh. You said what you meant." "Maybe," she admitted. "But it wasn't my place." "No," I said flatly. "It wasn't." She looked at me again, longer this time. Studying me. Maybe seeing something she hadn't before. "She didn't leave because of you, you know," she said finally. "She left because of her. Mia was always gonna run. You were just the excuse." I nodded. "Doesn't make it hurt less." "No, it doesn't." And then, unexpectedly, she reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "She asked me to give you this. Said you'd probably ignore her messages." I hesitated, then took it. The paper was thick. Her handwriting on the front. "What is it?" "I didn't read it," Taylor said. "And I don't care to. But maybe you should." Then she turned, walked away, and left me standing there, holding a letter from the woman who burned our home down and walked through the ashes in heels. I almost ripped it in half. But I didn't. I drove to the old park on Maple Ridge, the one where Mia and I used to walk before dinner, back when we still held hands and laughed without faking it. I sat on the same bench where we once argued about whether dogs understood human guilt, such a stupid fight now, in the shadow of everything else. I held the envelope in my lap for a long time. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the grass, and I kept wondering why I hadn't already tossed it. Why I still cared what she had to say. Eventually, I opened it. Just 2 pages. Handwritten. "No, dear Nathan. No, love, Mia." Just ink and ego. "By the time you read this, I'll be gone." And not in the dramatic, emotional sense you probably expect. Just gone. I moved in with Jason. Yeah, that's his name, in case you were still playing detective. You always were a little slow to connect the dots. I stopped reading for a second. My jaw clenched, but I forced myself to go on. "I know you'll think I'm heartless. Maybe I am. But I spent so long pretending to be someone I'm not. You wanted a wife who cooked, who stayed in, who asked about your little projects like they meant something. But I wanted more. I wanted to feel alive, Nathan. And with you, I felt invisible. The gall of it. As if I hadn't been there for every stupid dream she chased. As if I hadn't sacrificed job offers, friends, entire pieces of myself, just to keep the house stable while she figured herself out. I kept reading. "I don't expect you to forgive me. But I do want you to know this. Jason isn't forever. He's just now. I'm not looking for forever anymore. I'm done with that illusion. You'll find someone who fits your quiet world. Someone who thinks morning coffee and old movies are enough. I just never did. No apology. Not even a trace of remorse. Just rationalization. As if betrayal was a preference, not a choice. I folded the letter slowly, tucked it back in the envelope, and slipped it under my thighs so the wind wouldn't take it. I stared out at the pond, at the geese drifting across the water like they had no idea that anyone's world had just collapsed nearby. For the first time since this all started, I didn't feel rage. I felt pity. Not for her. For the man she was with. Jason. Whoever the hell he was. He didn't win anything. He just inherited a storm with good lighting. I leaned back on the bench, closed my eyes, and thought about everything I had left to rebuild. There was no dramatic music, no cinematic closure. Just the quiet realization that I was still here. That I'd survived the hit. That maybe, just maybe, being shattered meant I could choose how to put myself back together. When I stood up, I left the letter on the bench. Someone else could read it. I didn't need it anymore. 3 weeks passed. I moved into a small studio apartment downtown. One window, a squeaky ceiling fan, and a fridge that hummed louder than a jet engine, but it was mine. No staged photos on the shelves, no passive-aggressive notes on the mirror, no heavy perfume lingering on the pillows. Just me, silence, and a slowly refilling sense of self. Work picked up. Turns out when you're not constantly trying to decode the temperature of someone else's mood, you get a hell of a lot more done. I landed a freelance contract with a fintech startup and finally updated my resume. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a pulse again. And then came the hospital visit. Not for me, for my uncle, who had a mild heart attack. I was the closest family, so I went to check on him. Brought some fruit, argued with the nurses over visiting hours, cracked jokes at his bedside. It felt normal, almost peaceful, until I stepped into the hallway and saw her. Taylor. She was standing at a nurse's station, hair pulled back, clipboard in hand, focused, same as always. She didn't see me at first. I should have kept walking. Slipped out the side door, never looked back. But she turned, and our eyes locked. For a moment, neither of us said a word. Then she gave a stiff nod, half curious, half cautious. I walked up, slow, like we were circling an invisible landmine. He's on the mend, I said. Uncle Jim. She blinked. I didn't know he was your uncle. Yeah, well, lots of things people didn't know, right? A beat passed. She set her clipboard down, folded her arms. You look better. Healthier. Sleeping helps. So does not getting lied to every other day. She flinched. Slightly. I deserve that, she said. Maybe. Another pause. She shifted her weight, looked down the hall. Mia moved out of Jason's place. I didn't react. She showed up at our parents' house last week. Said she made a mistake. Still, I said nothing. Taylor sighed. You don't want to hear it, I know. I just thought you should know. I really shouldn't care, should I? No, she said softly. But part of you probably does. I leaned against the wall. She cheated. Lied. Disrespected me like I was nothing. And now she realizes Jason's not some fantasy? Not my problem anymore. She cried when she left, Taylor offered. Didn't even take her things. I cried too, I replied. Difference is, I didn't walk away from the person I made vows to. Taylor looked down. For once, no smart comeback. No snide remark. I was wrong about you, she said. You were loud about it, too. She smiled a little. Loud's kind of my thing. I noticed. We stood there in silence. Two people linked by damage that neither of us had fully caused, but both of us had been complicit in. Finally, she said, you hate me. No, I said. I just see you clearer now. Same. And that was it. No apology. No promise of friendship. Just mutual recognition of wreckage. I walked past her, nodded once, and pushed through the exit doors into the cool evening air. The wind felt good on my face. I was tired, but not broken. Not anymore. A few months later, I stood in front of the mirror in my new apartment, a real one this time, not a shoebox studio, adjusting the collar of a clean button-up shirt. Sunlight poured in through wide windows. A plant I hadn't killed yet sat proudly on the windowsill. The walls were bare, but the silence felt warm now, not hollow. There was no trace of Mia left in my life. I'd blocked her on everything. Gave away the gifts, deleted the photos, burned the letter. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. You don't recover from a storm by standing in the flood. Funny thing is, once I cut her out, the world felt bigger, brighter. I started going to the gym again. Took a solo trip to Colorado. I even started writing again. Nothing serious, just late-night thoughts poured into a notebook. Things I buried while trying to hold our fake life together. One night, I got dinner with an old friend, Claire, someone I hadn't seen in years. We talked for hours, really talked. Not the surface-level crap you do when you're distracted by your phone and your partner's mood swings. It was easy, light, no pressure. She asked what happened between Mia and me. I told her the truth. No dramatic flourishes. No villain monologues. Just facts. And she listened. Not with pity, with understanding. At the end of the night, as we stepped out into the cool breeze, she smiled and said, "You seem more alive now. Like you just exhaled after holding your breath for too long." I thought about that on the drive home. She was right. Mia didn't just betray me, she made me forget who I was. I gave so much of myself to keep her happy that I forgot what made me happy. It wasn't until I lost her that I realized she was never mine to begin with. Just a lesson I had to live through. A hard one, but a necessary one. Now, when I think about her, if I think about her at all, it's with clarity, not pain. She taught me exactly what I don't want in love: performance over presence, convenience over commitment, noise over substance. To anyone going through what I did, here's what I'd say. Don't chase explanations. Don't beg for closure. Don't try to fix someone who broke you on purpose. Just walk. Rebuild in silence. Reclaim your peace. Let them drown in the chaos they chose. You'll come out stronger. And one day, when you least expect it, someone will look at you, not like a placeholder, not like a project, but like a person they respect. And that's when you'll know. You made it out. You survived her. And more importantly, you remembered yourself.